2 days into 2019, the world of professional wrestling lost one of the all time greatest announcers the business has ever known. 2 days into 2019, we had a close to home death. And this is as close to home a death as we've had in a very long time. I never thought we would be starting a brand new year of Ridiculously Raw in this way. But last Wednesday, the one and only Mean Gene Okerlund passed away at the age of 76 after a fall in his home, severely damaged ribs, transported to a nursing home, and then he ended up having difficulty breathing and ultimately cost him his life. Tonight, on this first Ridiculously Raw of 2019, we are going to dedicate this show to the memory of the man you see in the picture right there. One and only Eugene Arthur Okerlund, better known to wrestling fans all around the world as Mean Gene Okerlund. Hello, friends. Anthony Florio here for this first Ridiculously Raw of 2019, joined by Michael Bullock and Didi Whitson. Fortunately, Good Old MF Michael Fletcher will not be joining us this evening due to work commitments beyond his control, but he will be back tomorrow night for the first Cerebral Smack Talk of 2019, and it's a loaded show, and we'll get into that at the end. But for right now, we're going to take this moment to pay our respects to Mean Gene Okerlund, and it's just sad. I mean, this man was our childhood. I mean, growing up watching professional wrestling like all of us did, this man was a part of it, was a very integral part of it. Did amazing backstage interviews in the AWA, the WWE, and WCW. So many legends, from Hulk Hogan to the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Randy Macho Man Savage, the Ultimate Warrior, Mr. Perfect, Rowdy Roddy Piper. So many legends that he interviewed over the years. And, you know, just cannot believe. I mean, we hadn't heard of anything wrong with him. I mean, I thought he was going to live a very long time, but never thought in my wildest dreams that he would end up passing away so much sooner than we thought. But you know, it's what it is. So he started, like I said, he started with the AWA. He started in radio before he went to the AWA in 1970. He occasionally filled in for an ailing ring announcer and interviewer, Marty O'Neill, and he eventually replaced O'Neill on a permanent basis by the end of the decade. He stayed with AWA until the end of 1983, where he was one of many AWA personnel to join the expanding World Wrestling Federation, stayed there for 9 years as their top interviewer, and was host of such WWF shows as All American Wrestling, Tuesday Night Titans. And he actually competed in a wrestling match. He teamed up with Hulk Hogan against George the Animal Steele and Mr. Fuji. And Okerlund and Hogan got the win, and Mean Gene actually scored the winning fall on Mr. Fuji for the win. And of course, was also part of one of the most infamous bloopers in the history of wrestling, SummerSlam 1989, interviewing Ravishing Rick Rude and Bobby Heenan prior to Rude's Intercontinental title defense against the Ultimate Warrior. The backdrop fell. He swore. He said, "F it." And, the blooper was actually taped beforehand. So, read into that what you will. And then, of course, he would leave WWE September of '93. His contract expired, and then he went to WCW, and he debuted on WCW Saturday Night, November the 6th of '93. He would stay there for, up until the end of WCW, which was in 2001. We all remember that memorable night. And he actually wrestled twice in WCW. It was him and Buff Bagwell against Chris Kanyon and Mark Madden. And then Madden and Okerlund had a one-on-one match, and Okerlund got the win. So, yeah. And then he went back to WWE in 2001, called the Gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17 with Bobby the Brain Heenan. He hosted WWE Confidential, which was a fantastic show that aired on the then TNN network in 2002 and 3. Did that for a couple of years. And then also hosted WWE Classics on Demand and inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2006 by the immortal Hulk Hogan, only fitting. And then he began hosting Vintage Collection. And he showed up on all the old school Monday Night Raws. And also came on SmackDown's Blast from the Past in 2012. Did another Monday Night Raw, the Slammy Awards in 2012, and did all 3 old school Raws. And then he became the narrator for the Storytime series on the WWE Network. And his final appearance, of course, was at the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw last year, when he interviewed the phenomenal AJ Styles. And he also appeared on the A-Team with Hulk Hogan, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid, Corporal Kirshner, and Big John Studd. Was also a part of Legends House, which you can see on the WWE Network. Was on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz on November 27th, 2013. He appeared in a Mountain Dew Kickstart commercial featuring Kevin Hart, who was doing an impersonation of Randy Macho Man Savage, and also appeared at the WrestleCade weekend event back in November in Winston-Salem. So he had also received 3 kidney transplants and suffered a fall, which caused his health to deteriorate in the weeks before his death. So that's the cause of death. And then he was inducted into the New England Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2015, the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2016, the WWE Hall of Fame in 2006, 2 Slammy Awards, Best Commentator in 1986, and also won Best Head with Bam Bam Bigelow in 1987. And also 2 honors from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Most disgusting promotional tactic, the infamous 900 hotline advertisements in WCW, and then was inducted into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame in 2016. So we don't have much time to get into, all of the laundry list of memories that, Mean Okerlund, that stood out to me, and I'm sure to everybody else. I mean, I remember Royal Rumble in 1993 when Sensational Sherry was absolutely hysterical backstage, and he was screaming, "Settle down! You are hysterical!" That's one that's always stood out to me. But WrestleManias, the early years of WrestleMania 1, singing the national anthem. WrestleMania 2, a moment that Michael Bullock and I hold very near and dear to our hearts, when he was the ring announcer in Chicago for the infamous NFL WWF Battle Royal. Of course, you know who we took the honors from that night, Bullock, our boy, Mr. Chet Kopic. I mean, you know how much we love him, especially when we watch back WrestleMania 2. But and then of course WrestleMania 3, when he made the announcement that 93,173 fans were inside the Pontiac Silverdome, setting a new record. I mean, that's a goosebumps moment right there. And then the intros to WrestleMania 4 and, you know, some great moments in the early years of the pay-per-views. And, of course, Saturday Night's Main Event. You know, he was a mainstay on Saturday Night's Main Event back when that was on NBC and Fox. I mean, in the 80s and 90s. I mean, when that show was fun to watch. I mean, mainstay on that show. And, you know, All American Wrestling, Tuesday Night Titans, and, of course, all those news segments, you know, the report segments that they would do during Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. And then what he did in WCW. I mean, very similar to what he did in WWE. Great interviews. Hulk Hogan with his "Let me tell you something, Mean Gene," or Ric Flair with his "Me Woo Gene." I mean, and of course, Randy Macho Man Savage had a very funny moment in WCW with Mean Gene saying his mustache was crooked. That's a moment that my brother and I always had a lot of fun with. I mean, so many great moments that we could get into, but we don't have that kind of time, unfortunately. But to sum it all up, the voice of our childhood, a very respected and beloved individual, a beautiful tribute video on Raw tonight, which we'll address, and there's nothing really more else we can say except on behalf of all of us here at the Wrestling Forum, you know, Ridiculously Raw, Cerebral Smack Talk, what have you. Me, Gene Okerlund, there's nothing left to say except thank you for the memories, thank you for the inspiration, and thank you for me, Gene Okerlund. Michael Bullock, come on in. I'm gonna channel my inner Mean Gene here when I say I'm very curious. What memories do you have of the great Mean Gene Okerlund, Michael Bullock? Come on in.
Well, like you said, I mean, there's like a lot of memories of the late great Mean Gene Okerlund. I mean, all the interviews he's done. I mean, I can go through a lot of the names. I mean, The Undertaker, The Ultimate Warrior, Bret the Hitman Hart. I mean, it's a plethora. But the one that I'll always remember is when his interviews with Hulk Hogan, and especially when Hulk Hogan would start with, "Well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene." I mean, that was just awesome with the and of course, I mean, it was almost like they were brothers, and of course, singing the national anthem at the very first WrestleMania. I mean, the new segments he would do during Superstars and the Wrestling Challenge, and the hosting the All American Wrestling with Bobby the Brain Heenan, and doing the Tuesday Night Titans, and yeah, I mean, there's so many great memories of Mean Gene. So there's really nothing more that's need to be said except definitely our thoughts and prayers and condolences go out to Mean Gene's family. So Twist Angel, Dee Woodson, give us your memories of Mean Gene Okerlund.
Well, for me, I started watching wrestling back in '86. 13 years old, sitting there for the first time watching it, and of course, you know, he was one of those announcers that just caught your ear, caught your attention. You know, just made it real. You know, I remember all the, especially the one where Andre put his hand over his face. I mean, I remember every single one of those segments of Mean Gene and Andre the Giant that showed tonight. I remember them just like they were yesterday. And back when the network was just starting, we had the little round table type thing with Mean Gene hosting, where he had like 4 different legends sitting there with him, and they're just talking, just talking shop there.
Yeah, Legends of Wrestling.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed watching that as more recent type stuff, but I mean, there's just too much for me personally to list. I mean, there's just going all the way from 86 to now, I mean, there's just too many things for me to even mention with everything that this man's done. I mean, he's, one of the big history makers. I mean, you've seen him in all the segments he did with Bobby the Brain Heenan, training with Hulk Hogan, because there was a lot of those vignettes that wasn't even at the arena or at the ring. There's so many different things that this man's done, and so many people he's touched. I'm with Hulk Hogan. He's up there announcing wrestling matches in heaven. I mean, there's what else can the man do? I mean, he's got that talent that he's going to draw anybody in, and he's just one special guy that I don't think there's anybody who could say really anything too negative about Gene Okerlund. He just seemed like that kind of man that nobody would have a beef with. So not too much more I'm going to say about it. Florio, it's yours.
And as hard as it is for us to move on, we have to move on, and that's what we're going to do right here and now. To the first Monday Night Raw 2019 from the Amway Arena in Orlando, Florida, on the USA Network. And we started it off with John Cena. Well, before we get into that, it started with the memorial graphic for Mean Gene, and then we go backstage where Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley were absolutely destroying each other. And then order was restored, and then when order was restored, John Cena comes out. John Cena cutting another great promo until he was he didn't just cut any promo. He announced that he is going to participate in the upcoming Royal Rumble match. And I told Bullock during our Raw chat this evening that I had a bold prediction as to why John Cena was on the show tonight. And I said that John Cena was going to announce his candidacy for the Royal Rumble. And go figure, I would be right on that. So I believe I had that one. So, and then Drew McIntyre comes out. And we thought it was going to lead into a one-on-one match with Drew McIntyre and John Cena. That is until Leo Rush or I should say, for Didi Whitson's sake, that little idiot, Leo Rush, would come out with Bobby Lashley, and Leo Rush doing what he does best, irritating the hell out of all of us. Saying that, ooh, I'm going to stop the show. I'm going to get a lawyer. Yeah. We have a word for that. It's called butthurt. That's all there is to say on that. And then from there...
Or another word for him, fickle.
And ignorant as well. But nonetheless, all hell breaks loose because Seth Rollins shows up. More of a Rollins and Lashley brawl. Cena and Ambrose and McIntyre get involved, and then Finn Balor shows up. And how did we go into the commercial break? The greatest Tope Con Hilo you will ever see. And Michael Bullock, I believe you're still giddy about that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes, I am. Especially after the greatest Tope Con Hilo I've ever seen. I mean, I went bonkers.
Yeah, you did. Didi Woodson, you should have heard him, man. I mean, he was like a kid in a candy store. He was losing his mind. That's all I can say. But
I can imagine.
yeah, whenever Finn Balor or anybody does a Tope Con Hilo, he loses his mind because he loves Tope Con Hilos. Hey, I do too.
But with the chaos that happened, it not just inside but outside the ring.
Yeah.
I mean, holy smokes.
And I love the idea of opening the show with a brawl. They shook the camera so much that it took a few seconds to figure out who was involved. And I'd be lying if I said that I didn't lose a little interest once I saw it was Lashley. Hopefully, they had a plan to heat him up, but it's hard to imagine him losing a few to Rollins right now. And, that's all we can say on that because it led into a 6-man tag team matchup. John Cena, Seth Rollins, and Finn Balor against Drew McIntyre, Dean Ambrose, and Bobby Lashley. Winners of the match in 21 and a half minutes. John Cena, Seth Rollins, and Finn Balor. Seth Rollins with a curb stomp on Dean Ambrose, getting the win. Nothing left to say except this was the fight of the night. This was amazing. I mean, wow. I mean, McIntyre received the promo time with Cena, but the match was all about Rollins in the end. And, it was announced after the match that Seth Rollins would get his Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship rematch with Dean Ambrose later tonight in a Falls Count Anywhere matchup. Was that match is this match a temporary blow-off for Rollins and Ambrose, given that it looks like Rollins is being set up for a match with Brock Lesnar, presumably at WrestleMania? But nonetheless, I mean, to me, this was the fight of the night. Michael Bullock and I agreed this was a 4.5-star match. A little more, we would have been talking about a 5-star classic. But to me, this was one of the greatest 6-man tag team matches I have ever seen. Great action, hot crowd, some amazing athleticism in this. There was some Shakespearean drama in there. So that's all I can say on that. So well done. Segment, I would probably say maybe second best segment of the night, but the fight was the fight of the night. 4.5 stars, easy. Nothing more to say. I mean, Michael Bullock, Tope Con Hilo aside, your thoughts on the chaos that started this Raw tonight?
My goodness, I mean, you talk about an awesome way to start out the first Raw 2019. I mean, this was crazy. I mean, John Cena cutting the promo to basically say he's in the Royal Rumble match. And Drew McIntyre coming out saying that this is the moment he's been waiting for to basically take over John Cena. And then we had this crazy brawl, of course, with John Cena and Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley. And then we get Dean Ambrose. Then Cena and McIntyre get into the action. Finn Balor comes out. And then we get the craziest Tope Con Hilo I've ever seen. One that made me go bonkers. And yeah, I mean, this was just crazy. And then the match, 4.5 stars for me. This was to me the fight of the night. I mean, all 6 competitors I thought did really well. And yeah, and then later on, it was, like you said, it was announced that it would be Rollins and Ambrose for the Intercontinental title in a Falls Count Anywhere match. So yeah, so all in all, good way to start it off. So Didi Woodson, I give it to you.
Yeah, it was a good way to start off. I mean, how many times have you actually seen them start with an altercation like they did with Lashley and Rollins? I mean, it's very rare that anything like that starts off a show. But having that and then going into this Cena segment and then kind of continuing that after, the speech with McIntyre and the Idjit coming out and running his trap. I mean, it just you could almost tell this was going to become a match by the time they're going commercial break. But yeah, I mean, that was very well done segment. Definitely, I would say it's the second best of the night. I'll agree with the rating on the match. It was a very well done match. Not much more I'm going to say on it, so I'll toss it back to you.
And of course, a quick update on the national championship game for everyone who's just tuning in. I can't believe the score I'm about to give you guys here. Clemson is routing Alabama 44-16 with under 7 minutes to go. It looks like it won't be next victim for Alabama. The next victim is themselves, because it looks like Clemson is on their way to another national championship. They're second in, I think it's in 4 years, I think.
3.
3 years. All right.
Second in 3.
Yeah, second in 3 years for the Clemson Tigers.
Unbelievable. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say on that. I mean,
I never would have thought a Nick Saban defense was going to get dominated like we're seeing right now.
Amazing. After what they did to Notre Dame, they damn sure deserve it. That's all I can say on that. So, let's.
Yeah, and looks like they could be on their way to another touchdown. It could be a 50-burger.
Wow. Well, let's move on here. This was one of the segments that we were all waiting for. One of the many segments on this show that we were waiting for. The immortal Hulk Hogan, the Hall of Famer, came out, paid his respects to Mean Gene, set up that beautiful tribute video that they did for him. Those tribute videos are always well done. And he even went into his vintage Hulk Hogan, well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene, and talking about what he would have been doing in heaven. And he concluded by saying, what you gonna do when Mean Gene Mania runs wild on you? Oh, man. Michael Bullock, there's nothing left for me to say. I mean, hands down, this was the segment of the night, and rightfully so.
Yeah, this was definitely the segment of the night here. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, Hulk Hogan with an amazing tribute to his great friend, Mean Gene Okerlund. I mean, with that video package, with paying tribute with all the great moments, especially the interviews that he's done with numerous superstars, and especially Hulk Hogan. And you could see that during the whole thing, he was emotional. I mean, it goes to say that it looks. I mean, it's they were like brothers. Hogan and Mean Gene were like brothers, and especially when you saw in the videos with Hulk Hogan training Mean Gene Okerlund, especially when, and of course they tagged in that tag team match against Mr. Fuji and George the Animal Steel, and closed. I mean, what you gonna do when Mean Gene Mania runs wild on you, and closed it out in style with, well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. I mean, couldn't have been a perfect way to end his tribute to Mean Gene Okerlund. So, segment of the night, Dee Woodson, I give it to you.
Definitely the segment of the night. I mean, I was talking about a lot of this stuff at the opening of the show. There's, him with Andre the Giant, him with Hulk Hogan, him with those other, segments outside of the arena. The training, the even all the crazy stuff with, Bobby Heenan and all them. I mean, it was a very well done tribute video, and yeah, that nobody else fitting to go out there in the middle of the ring and do this tribute other than than Terry Hogan, and you could tell once he did his in character bit, he was out of character, but tears, almost in tears, just it was very tough, I know, for him to actually go out there and do that, because they were close. They'd done so many things together, and and everything, and very well done tribute, and hats off to WWE for actually making a tribute that well done for a man who was their number one announcer. So not much more I'm going to say about it. Florio, it's yours.
Yes, very well done indeed. I mean, you definitely felt it. I mean, Hogan was well received throughout the segment. There were also some fans wearing his T-shirts in the crowd, and the video package, like I said, well done, top notch as usual. Credit to the production team as always. They always put together these wonderful packages, and that one was no exception. So everything else we pretty much said. I mean, that was the segment of the night, hands down. So, and it made a lot of sense because Hogan and Mean Gene very close in real life and on the shows. I mean, there was no one that Mean Gene Okerlund interviewed more than Hulk Hogan. I mean, the next closest would probably have to be the Nature Boy Ric Flair. There was a rumor that he was going to be on the show tonight, but it was just a rumor. I mean, that would have been awesome if Flair had shown up as well. That would have been awesome. But no, I mean, Hogan was the one who Mean Gene interviewed more than anybody. Not just WWE, but also in the AWA and in WCW. And, it's only fitting that they had the Hulkster there. And of course, the show was in Florida, and Hulk Hogan is a Florida native. So obviously that was an easy commute for him. So everything came out perfectly well done. So well done indeed. Segment of the night, hands down. And then from there, the lumberjack match for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable defending against the Revival. Winners of the match in 10 minutes and 15 seconds. And still the Raw Tag Team Champions, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. But Didi Woodson, the Revival got screwed again. Another controversy. Foot on the rope. And they missed it.
Yeah, and you could tell, the Ascension was standing there, and they're even trying to point it out. Hey, look, there's his foot's on the rope, and this is when you wish there was replay in wrestling, like there is in football, but no, we don't have it. So, it was an okay match. Not the best thing in the world, but it was an okay match. But that ending, I think that just pretty much killed the momentum. Seeing them get screwed again because the referee wasn't in the right place, and not listening to the extra witnesses that you have outside. I mean, they were asking each and every one of the lumberjacks out there, did you see what happened? Did you see my foot was under the rope? And it was under the rope from the count of one. I mean, it should have, the count should have never happened because he was so close to the ropes. So I'm going to give it probably, I'll give about 2 stars because I had to penalize for the ending. But, still, it was an okay match for being a lumberjack match. And, but yeah, the Revival, they really need to, do something because they're getting screwed over one too many times, and it's going to piss them off so much that I think we're going to see something major coming up. So not much more I'm going to say about it. Florio, take it.
2 to 2.5. I mean, it was a decent match. but the widescreen shot that included the Lumberjacks was a sad reminder of how bad the Raw tag division is these days. The finish was obviously weak, with the goal of setting up the need for another rematch. And I mean, what else is there to say? So 2 to 2.5. I honestly thought the Revival was going to win this thing tonight, but I was only kidding myself. So, but I got a feeling we're going to get another rematch maybe next week. And if they do, hopefully we'll have a clear and decisive winner. And no disrespect to Rooney Gable, but I really want to see the Revival get those belts. No Raw tag team right now deserves it more than they do. That's all I can say on that, especially after all the nonsense they've been put through. From the Lucha House Party nonsense and everything else. They deserve those tag titles. And they better get them soon. So I'm going to park it there. 2 to 2.5. Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, 2.5 stars on the match. I mean, it was fine for what it was, but nothing really amazing really occurred from this. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Let's just move on, Florio.
We had Elias squaring off against Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin wins the match, 9 minutes, 25 seconds with the end of days. It was another 2 to 2.5. I mean, the match outcome surprised me, if only because it seems like they have big plans for Elias. And the finish didn't do much to protect him. It's not a big deal, and I like when certain heels get clean wins, but it was still a bit surprising. So I'm just going to park it there, 2 to 2.5. Bullock, quick thought.
Yeah, I'm going to give it about 2 to 2.5 as well. I mean, another decent match, but again, nothing really good to write home about when it comes to this. Yeah, so there's really nothing more that needs to be said. Dee, what did I give it to you?
I'm actually going to score it lower just because I think most all of us are tired of seeing these two. So I'm going to give it about 1.5. So not much more I'm going to say about it.
Baron Corbin.
Definitely Baron Corbin. So not much more I'm going to say about it. Florio, it's yours.
And then we had the segment with Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. Bullock, quick thought. And let's try to pick up the pace here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fine segment for what it was. I mean, I love the interaction with the two of them. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Dee, what did I give it to you?
There was one word I wanted to hear Strowman say, and he didn't say it. Lesnar, you're a chicken. I actually could call you chicken shit, but that's basically what you are. Hiding out in the back and not going out there, and then prancing around the ring and still not going out there. So, not much more I have to say about it. Let's move on.
Yeah, that was a weak segment. I mean, Strowman came off like a big oaf who couldn't talk smack, and Lesnar doing his lap that led to nothing was just plain uneventful, given the long buildup. Cutout time, mixed tag team action, Ember Moon and Apollo Crews against Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox with the Jabroni Squad. Ember Moon and Apollo Crews won the match in 1 minute and 50 seconds. And they had the mixed tag match starting the third hour while running opposite halftime of the College Football Playoff National Championship. Very strange. On a positive note, Jinder insulting fans is the most heelish thing he's done in months. So perhaps they finally realized that meditation and being peaceful are not heel traits. Then we had Alexa Bliss in the Moment of Bliss with Ronda Rousey as the special guest. And Rousey, all she had to say was she wants her next challenger to be Sasha Banks. And then Nia Jax came out and she was like, no, we have some unfinished business. Sasha comes out and then they had a little moment. The B word was exchanged, so we're just going to leave it at that. And it led into a number one contenders match. Sasha Banks squaring off against Nia Jax, with the winner challenging Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's Championship at the Royal Rumble. Winner of the match, 13 minutes and 15 seconds. It's boss time. Sasha Banks wins it with the Banks statement on Nia Jax. Tap out victory. Edie Whitson, what do you think? Ronda Rousey, Sasha Banks. Hey, the McMahon said fresh matchups. And we
Definitely
finally got one. This is as fresh as it gets.
This was definitely a fresh matchup. You know, you could say throughout most of this match, you know, you thought Banks was going to lose it because Nia just kept overpowering and powering out of each and every move, and here she, you know, she pulled it off. So I'm going to give it a 2 stars. It was a very good match for the ladies. I mean, even with getting Bayley involved and Tamina involved, I mean, it was still very well done. And now we have something better than Nia Jax to look forward to at Royal Rumble. So I'll toss it back to you.
3 stars. I got to give it a solid 3 with all due respect, Edie. I mean, Bullock and I, you know, we couldn't believe the match. I mean, but as far as the segment goes, I mean, it was just there. I mean, I was hoping for a little more out of that, but it was fine for what it was. But as far as the match is concerned, I'm giving it a solid 3 stars. You know, the finishing sequence was odd. I mean, was the idea that Sasha Hurricanrana was supposed to drive Nia face first into the apron? Didn't really play out that way. Or maybe Jax was supposed to go to the floor and they just went with the planned finish anyway. But nonetheless, it will be nice to see a fresh Rousey Banks match at the Rumble. And this is going to lead to all sorts of speculation that it will be the first step toward the long-rumored horsewomen versus horsewomen match. I vote for saving that for somewhere down the road, moving on from the tired Banks and Bayley alliance, despite the first women's tag team titles coming soon, and maybe turning Sasha heel into her natural heel role. But, you know, we'll see on that. But nonetheless, this was a solid 3 stars, and it was the female equivalent of a man fight because this was a very physical smash mouth match. And Michael Bullock, as I bring you in, I mean, during our Raw chat, I mean, you were very much into this. I mean, unbelievable. So, solid 3.
Yeah, this is definitely a solid 3-star match. I mean, this is almost like a man fight, but instead it was a woman fight. And boy, these two certainly brought it. And yeah, I mean, there's really nothing more that needs to be said. So let's move right along, Florio.
And we move on to main event of the evening. The Falls Count Anywhere match for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins. Winner of the match in 14 minutes and 55 seconds. And still the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, Dean Ambrose. But he didn't do it all. He didn't do it on his own. He had some help. The almighty Bobby Lashley. 3.5 stars. Second best fight of the night. They foreshadowed the hell out of this finish with the show opening brawl that felt like it came out of nowhere. But it was still an entertaining match. And it's probably for the best to move on from Ambrose and Rollins at this point. Ambrose is a new champion. And if they are going to have Rollins challenge Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania, then he doesn't need to fail to take the title away from him over and over again. Now Rollins has a feud that he can win, and they can always go back to Ambrose and Rollins somewhere down the road. Maybe this time for the Universal Championship. Maybe after WrestleMania, perhaps. But nonetheless, 3.5 stars, second best fight of the night. Nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, I mean, we were going to go higher, but because of the finish, we can only give this 3.5. We were thinking 4, but I think 3.5 is the best rating, correct?
Oh, yeah. We were thinking 3.5. I mean, we were thinking 4 originally, but 3.5 was is the correct rating. I mean, because of that overbooked finish with Bobby Lashley interfering in the match. So there's really nothing more that needs to be said. So yep. So it is now official, guys. The Clemson Tigers are your national champions for the second time in 3 years. So nothing more to say. Dee Woodson, I give it to you.
Yeah, I'll agree with the rating. You didn't need Lashley in the show. I mean, it was kind of expected because of the opening, but you didn't need him. Ambrose can hold his own without having the help from someone like Lashley. Not much more I'm going to say about it. Let's put the bow on it.
Yeah, and Michael Bullock, I know you're probably not ready, so Didi Whitson, let's start it with you because I know you probably got to get going. So let's get your overall thoughts on this first Raw of the year.
It was all right. I mean, it wasn't the best in the world.
Not at all.
You had kind of the bookend opening and finishing, and the inside, and the middle inside here was just kind of weak, kind of lame. The normal BS that you would expect from some of the Raws we got last year. I mean, how many of these matches are you sick and tired of? I mean, I'm tired of seeing Bliss try to make herself the high and almighty. Tired of Nia Jax coming out there and throwing it still in our face that she broke Becky Lynch's face. The mixed match stuff is getting a little bit old. Amber Moon's better than this. She don't need to be doing this kind of stuff anymore. Alicia Fox don't even know how to do Jinder's relaxation moves. She thinks it's more of a dance. Okay, whatever. We all know how we feel about Corbin and Elias. We're all sick and tired of that. We're sick and tired of how the Revival's getting treated. It's just one of those shows where you could almost predict some of the stuff that was going to happen. So I'm going to probably give it I'll be generous and go with a 6 just because of the Mean Gene segment and the bookends that were very well done. The rest of it, okay, not anything to write home about. So I guess I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night.
All right, Didi, we'll see you tomorrow night. 9 o'clock. Well, actually, no, it's not 9 o'clock. It'll be 10, but
yeah. Fletch said he's starting.
Yeah, MF says he's starting in at 9 because he has a loaded Mikey's mindset, and then he's going to bring us on at around 10. So it'll probably be 10 then. So
sounds good. See you then.
All right. Yep, see you then. I was leaning more towards 6.5 to 7 because this Raw was a wrestling heavy show, which was a pleasant surprise given the advertised appearances by Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, John Cena, Hulk Hogan, and even Alexa Bliss's talk show. I still don't get why in the world they would go with the mixed tag match when they did. But I still enjoyed the majority of this show, even if it did lack the big wow factor that you hope for from the first Raw of the year. So I'll just park it there, 6.5 to 7. So Bullock, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to give it about 6.5 to 7 out of 10. You pretty much touched on everything, Florio. So let's quickly get to your Tony's take.
Yeah, and we got quite a bit to get into here. 205 Live. We had a couple of matches, 2 qualifying matches for the Cruiserweight Championship Fatal 4-Way match. Kalisto against Lio Rush. Kalisto wins 14 minutes and 21 seconds, 3-star match. Good match overall. It would have been better with a smarter and harder finishing stretch instead of the Sports Entertainment distraction finish, which felt very flat. And then we had Akira Tozawa against Drew Gulak. Akira Tozawa, wins the match in 17 minutes and 14 seconds, 3.5 stars. Very good main event between 2 guys that know each other well. Had some really good aggression with the feeling that they were really fighting for something important, which they were. 7.25 out of 10. It was a good and focused show, setting 2 of the 3 Rumble challengers and providing some good wrestling on the show. So that's really all I can say on that. And then, of course, Impact Wrestling, which was the first show of the year. And I'll tell you, Oh, okay. I'm just gonna tell you what happened on the show. I don't have formal ratings for it, but we started off with a 10-man tag team match: Willie Mack, Rich Swann, and the Rascals against Matt Sydal, Ethan Page, OVE, and Sami Callihan. The face team won the match in 11 minutes and 52 seconds. Okay, but forgettable spot fest style match. It kind of felt more like a Lucha Underground trios match, but 10 people makes the individuals even more forgettable, and that's all I can say there. In-ring segment with Tommy Dreamer, Eli Drake, and Raven. It was all right. The latest ode to ECW. So all I can say there. The new Desi Hit Squad against Falaba and KM. KM and Falaba won that in 452. And then a great promo with the Lucha Brothers and LAX. Great work there. Dark Alley against Kiera Hogan. Dark Alley wins 4 minutes and 46 seconds. And then there was another great promo there from the Luchas and LAX. And then Trevor Lee against Killer Kross. Killer Kross in 2.5 minutes by submission. And then that cinder block to the face. Oof, gosh. That's all I can say there. And then we had the Lucha Brothers against Johnny Impact and Brian Cage in the main event. Lucha Brothers in 7 minutes and 13 seconds. So, it was a fairly good show. It was a strange go-home show, and that's all I can say on that. And now, last night, of course, was the Homecoming pay-per-view, which was at the Asylum in Nashville, Tennessee. And, I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, it was a great show. We had Rich Swann, Ethan Page, Jake Crist, and Trey Miguel in an Ultimate X match for the vacant X Division Championship. Winner of the match in 13 minutes and 40 seconds, and the new X Division Champion, Rich Swann. Rich Swann can't handle this. Yeah, so big moment for Rich Swann. Allie and Su Yung against Jordan Grace and Kiera Hogan. Allie and Su Yung won that in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. Eddie Edwards and Moose, Falls Count Anywhere match. Eddie Edwards won that in 13 minutes and 20 seconds. Sami Callihan against Willie Mack. Sami Callihan won that in 10 minutes and 15 seconds. Eli Drake over Abyss in the Monsters Ball match. 12 minutes and 15 seconds. LAX, Lucha Brothers for the World Tag Team Championship. LAX retains in 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Tessa Blanchard defending the Knockouts Championship against Taya Valkyrie. Special guest referee Gail Kim. Winner of the match in 10 minutes and 25 seconds. And the new Impact Knockouts champion, Taya Valkyrie. And then in the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship, Johnny Impact against Brian Cage. Winner of the match in 20 minutes and 15 seconds. And still the Impact World Heavyweight Champion, Johnny Impact. Great show. 7.5 out of 10, without a doubt. So that will put the bow on this first Ridiculously Raw of the year. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. And before we wrap up, tomorrow night, a very unusual edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk. It's going to start at 9 p.m., but good old MF Michael Fletcher is going to be hosting solo for the first hour. From 9 to 10, he's going to be hosting on his own because he has a lot of Mikey's Mindset stuff that he needs to get into. He figures he will need about an hour to do that. So he will do that. And then as soon as SmackDown Live goes off the air, he's going to bring us on and we will get into the rest of the stuff. We'll review SmackDown Live and we'll go from there. And then on Friday night, Strictly Sports, no docket yet, but Derek has said he will release the docket tomorrow for the season premiere of Strictly Sports. The only thing we know as of right now is the preview of the 4 divisional playoff matchups: the Indianapolis Colts against the Kansas the New England Patriots, and the Philadelphia Eagles against the New Orleans Saints. We'll preview all that, and we'll have I'm guessing it'll be our first NHL Power Rankings. So we'll see what Derek has in store when he releases the docket tomorrow. So that's it. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, it's Anthony Floyer here once again for Michael Bullock and in spirit, good old MF Michael Fletcher, D.D. Woodson, and Derek Ferreira. And before we leave you tonight, we will once again close by honoring the late, great Mean Gene Okerlund. For all of us here, the Wrestling Forum, and Ridiculously Raw, the Cerebral Smack Talk, our thoughts and our prayers and our condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues that were so fortunate to get to work with this wonderful man for all the years he put into the business. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, it's Anthony Floyer here saying, the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Tuesday. Until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk with MF over on Braceway 95. You were watching the first Ridiculously Raw of 2019 right here on the Zone 25 on YouTube.com. Remember, no matter what anyone tells you, wrestling is indeed actually real. For everybody who's been a part of this one. For now, Anthony Floyo, so long. Bye, everybody. Bye. For the final time, Mean Gene, thank you for the memories. Thank you for the inspiration. And thank you for Mean Gene Okerlund. Rest in peace, my friend. Good night from Ridiculously Raw.